Awesome. We're live, ladies and gents. Welcome. Welcome to this what are we doing here? We're live streaming and we're live streaming constantly. It seems like there's a lot to talk about in wow, in the last few months, and then also for the next 2 weeks there's going to be so much to talk about because we're in an election cycle, ladies and gents. This is where we're at right now. And a lot of people are pontificating. I've been pontificating my opinions. Everyone's been putting their opinions out there. A lot of people getting heated about opinionated content and things that are going out there. And a lot of people are just questioning what's the truth, what's actually happening, what is the reality that we're living, because we have people that are viewing the same thing at the same time, and they're seeing things in completely different ways and in different perspectives. And this is why I like to not just be the only one talking about this, but bring people with other great perspectives, some that I disagree with and some that I disagree, or some that I agree and disagree with. And this is why tonight's a perfect example of that. So welcome to the show. First and foremost, Alex Zoltan, thank you so much for joining.
Thank you for having me.
And Mark Nixon, the one and only. Welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me. Excited for tonight. This is going to be a good show.
Yeah, so I'm excited about this because, you know, we've all been commenting on all of this, and Alex, you've been like right in the mix of it as a reporter now. You're not just a social media influencer anymore. You're actually actual legit reporter. Started with crime reporting with True North, and now you're doing actual, like, the election coverage. It's gone. I mean, they're the same, one and the same, right? Crime and elections.
Yeah, I suppose. Yeah, there's a lot of crime in Canadian politics. I suppose there's a lot of crossover there for sure.
Yeah. So yeah, you've been doing a lot of that, and you're gonna be flying out to Montreal to be covering the debate, which I'm excited about. I'm excited to watch that and to hear some new opinions, perhaps hear some new things from the candidates. That being, of course, Mark Carney and Pierre Poilievre. Everyone else is like, what? Who cares? Why are you here? For the most part, in that. And Mark, you are all over the place. You are all over the place. You are on Instagram. You're on TikTok. You're on Twitter. You are, well, now X, they call it. And you're also on YouTube here. And you're just blowing up. I'm loving what you're doing. It's fantastic.
Yeah, thanks, Clyde. I mean, you know what? It's been a lot of fun. And that's one thing you have to remember is as long as you're having fun, you're passionate about what you're doing, and you're putting out great content. I mean, that's all important. People need to know what's going on, and I'm passionate about it. And a lot of Canadians, you know, we just get spoon-fed this stuff on CTV or on the news, and we really need to work together as, you know, Canadians and kind of understand what there's always a reason behind something. So it's great to have platforms where we could get together like we are today and be able to use our social media. And one of the things that I really notice is with all of these different platforms, there's not that much crossover. People use one or two and top. So that's why I'm on all the platforms, because some people are only on Instagram or Facebook or, you know, X or, you know, YouTube. So it's good to be kind of everywhere. And then one thing that's tricky, though, is each platform has their own kind of idiosyncrasies. So you kind of got to learn them all. And luckily, I've kind of learned all these platforms pretty quickly. So it's been a lot of fun. I have to say the one platform that has the most, and you wouldn't even believe this. Oh, I guess you could, is and for censorship is actually TikTok. It's just insane. So I actually have been not as active. As soon as the election was announced, immediately every single video you publish, maybe it's just me because my account's, you know, at 185,000 followers, so I have a big, you know, audience. So everything gets reviewed. It takes like sometimes about 5 minutes before the video is actually published. Oftentimes it will be flagged, and then you have to kind of dispute it. So it's been really difficult to put anything politics onto TikTok, specifically if you're not, you know, following the CBC narrative or the left leaning. Left leaning seems to be actually boosted. You know, you see some content just getting a million views, and then you get another piece of content that's really well put together, and it's been suppressed. So these are the things that are happening on social media, and I'm seeing it on all different accounts, different things. We could definitely look into that as well. But thank you very much for having me on the show. And like I said, I'm excited to be talking to two other people that I feel are great and inside what's going on right now. So this is going to be an exciting discussion. And Alex, I had no idea you're going to Montreal. That's exciting.
Thank you. Yeah.
And I got a few questions for you. I mean, I've been following you on your X, and I'm just loving the content, and you're active on replies, and one of the things, well, we'll talk about it, is you allowed me to share one of your interviews downtown Vancouver, and I thought that was just a lot of fun and interesting too.
Well, let's get into that. So which interview was that you shared?
Oh, he had so much fun. So I mean, Alex, you could probably, describe it, and then I could also put my 2 cents in.
Yeah, so that was the one, I think, where I went around Vancouver and I asked people if they knew who the prime minister was.
Oh, I saw that. That was good.
Yeah. I did another one recently in Chinatown. I thought it was a clever idea at the time, where I went to Chinatown and I asked people if they were concerned about foreign interference from China.
Oh yeah, no, I got to take a look at that one. That
I posted it because it was mostly just homeless people coming up and trying to sell me the street art.
There's like, who's this asking questions? For the viewers that are outside of the Lower Mainland, Chinatown is right next to Hastings Street, and Hastings Street, it's like, I mean, there's no almost no concrete left. It's tents, garbage, and obviously people. It's a very sad scene. There's not much coverage in this area because obviously, across Canada, it is a problem. And Chinatown is actually right there. It's like the next street over. So, it's a tough area.
Well, it's funny because in the mainstream media, they don't seem to be wanting to talk about the interference story at all. It's like every time we get a reprieve or a little break from everything that's happening, and people pipe up and they say, hey, remember that interference thing that everybody was talking about? Can we get back on that? And then you get the next news story about buttons or about something that's happening in the news cycle, but not back to this interference thing. This seems to be a real serious issue in Canada. I mean, I don't think with the election, they're not going to put the election on hold to investigate this. They've investigated Chinese interference, and as we've seen over the course of a decade, we investigate ourselves and we found no wrongdoing, and it just keeps on going. Where do you think this is going to go? I'll start with you, Mark.
Yeah, I just want to say it goes even crazier than just foreign interference. There's legit currently our own government interfering with the election, which is insane to think about. We found out that in the liberal war room in their team, they went to a conservative event and started handing out pins and the pins were associated to Donald Trump's previous election, where steal the election or that slogan, and they were basically planting, that into people to see that. So that's like interfering in our own, election. It's insane. It's insane. I mean, and where the story goes even further, this is what the most insane part is Mark Carney spoke today and he said, yeah, we dealt with it. Well, you would think that dealing with it would be a bunch of people fired, right? That's what you think. Fired, maybe investigated. What they did is they dealt with it by assigning them a different task. Can you believe it? The Liberals they will never prosecute. They'll never get anybody in trouble. They just said, oh, oops. And then they gave them a different task to do.
Yeah,
it's unbelievable.
Stop the steal fanny packs.
They might have given them a promotion. Like, we don't know where they were reallocated. Was it a promotion? Good job. Like, we have no idea.
But they weren't just like lackeys; they were staffers, right? Like this is how it was described. So when I hear staffers, I'm thinking like Gerald Butts. I'm thinking, Mendocino, the people that are been lining up to be in the cabinet. Who are these people?
No, and one of the other things, it's actually CBC that broke the story. Can you believe it? That's how this is credible. Okay. It's not as if it was just like came from nowhere. This is like, wow, it's insane. And yeah, it's just unbelievable. And then I don't know if you saw the Pleb reporter posted today on if you take a look, there's a group of people that are wearing white sweaters and a hat that looks like there's a American flag on it, and they just don't look like they belong there. So this is we don't know. There's no news report on it. It just looks like they're already this is where it really gets interesting, is that it's almost, and so if you could pull it up, Clyde.
I wanted to pull that one up, but I tried to earlier, and it looks like that tweet's been taken down.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So I don't know what that means. Like, was it something that it didn't turn out to be accurate? Is that, you know what I mean? Like, I'd have to look it up and see if there's more people tweeting about it. But the Pleb reporter's tweet is no longer available. That one's down. So what was that story about anyway? So like there was a bunch of people that rocked up and they had shirts that said what? Don't trust the polls. Do you
believe the polls? Yeah, don't trust the polls. So like, I mean, people, like the polls, what really matters is the election turnout, people voting. The polls is just kind of a gauge. I mean, they're surveying 1,000 people, 1,500 people. And one thing that people don't understand about the polls is that there's a few things. And I tried to, people that see me on my X, I try to explain it to them, but I explain it in little pieces of information. So one of the things is people, for example, if they're calling people the blue collar workers, the people that are actually working every day, paying their taxes, they're not picking up the phone for polls. They're working. They don't have time for that. And those are the people that are mobilizing right now to vote for tax cut, vote for change. We're sending too much money to foreign aid for poop signs in Ghana. Like there's just so much waste going on. And these people are furious and they're not captured in the polls. And then another thing is last election, almost 40% of actual voters that are able to vote in Canada didn't even get bothered to get off the couch to vote. Okay. 40% this time around, people after 10 years of all this inflation, all of the issues, people are ready for change. And these people that have never voted before, and I've spoken to many of them, they said, this is my first time voting and I've been able to, but I feel like it's time for change, and they're going to show up. And those people are also not captured in the polling numbers. And this election will be decided on the people that said, you know what, I'm going to vote for the first time, or I haven't, or I voted and I want change. And that's what's going to decide. And if they show up, if these are millions of people, if these millions of people that I think are going to show up and vote, it's a game changer.
That is a game changer. And here's so I found some stuff on these people that showed up with the shirts. So Pleb Reporter's post has gone down. He's taken it down for I'm not sure what reason. But here is Jeff Buxey, a retired RCMP. He says, I don't trust any of the poll numbers, and most certainly not. I don't trust CBC and other Canadian media funded by the Liberal government. And these are these people. So this is from CBC. So take this with a grain of salt. Honestly,
wow.
Some conservative supporters. So CBC's reporting on this. Question whether the polls can be trusted. It seems like I never trust this stuff when I read it first and foremost, especially when it's coming from sources like this. So some conservative supporters question whether the polls can be trusted. Three main leaders say they'll accept election results, but don't all agree on poll accuracy. Conservative supporters Sarah and Paul, who did not want to share their last names, hold banner questioning the federal opinion poll results outside party leader Pierre Poilievre's Wednesday evening rally in Brampton, Ontario. So these are those individuals, and then the story obviously goes on. They're trying to skew the polls, the people's votes. How do we know the polls aren't biased? And this has been the sentiment. Like you just shared that sentiment. So,
but why are they spending money on shirts? And they're brand new shirts. And there was this is just 2 people, but in the picture I saw there was like 8 people. They have these hats that look like mega, like look. I don't know if you could barely see, but it's like almost like a U.S. flag on their hat. And yeah, I mean, it just doesn't look right. And now this is after the pin thing. So it's like so everything needs to be kind of like, what's going on here? And, you know, when I read the comment section on the post that I saw, people that were commenting was like, is this like a preview that, you know, the election results, like, you know, could potentially be in question? And they're already starting to, you know, paint that narrative on the news, right? Like, so that's something I'm like, whoa, okay, that's interesting. You know, they're already gearing up for something, you know, like what is that? It just doesn't look right. That's all.
No, it doesn't look right. Cause I mean, we saw the narrative there where it's like, look at them, they're acting like Trump people. And of course that's like a narrative that they've been trying to put on Pierre Poilievre for a long time. If you look at Pierre Poilievre, he does not seem like a Trump figure. In fact, I mean, I'm a Trump fan. I like what Trump's doing. I like Trump, and I don't think that Pierre and Trump are anything similar. I don't think that that's the case at all. No, and it's not that, you know, it's not to say that I don't like Pierre. I just don't see a similarity there.
On the polls thing, I really like what the bloc leader had to say about them. He goes, you know, quit looking at the scoreboard. You're missing a great game on the ice.
Okay, that's fair.
He's been saying a lot of things, actually, and I posted on my
actually. I don't hate him at all. He's pretty cool.
Yeah. Yeah, he's been going full tilt against Mark Carney and how he doesn't care about Quebec. It's been pretty good. I've been posting on my X. He's pumped for the French debates. He's like, I'm just going to obliterate Mark Carney because we don't have any of his financial statements. He's not sharing any of it. He did come out preemptively today and say that he's given up his other citizenships just to be Canadian. My question about that. My question is, when you won the leadership race, that should have been an immediate reaction. But this late stuff and sympathy stuff, and we keep seeing it. Do you actually think the Liberals would have came out when they had those pin things and found out that their members had done that and came out and said, oh, you know, we reassigned preemptively of potentially coming out? Or did they wait for it to come out? It was a story, and then they had to deal with it. Do you see what I mean? It's always the same with these people. It's unbelievable.
Yeah, but I think, like, just to follow up on what Blanchette said as well, I think the problem with people looking at the polls on both sides is there's been a lot of Sunday afternoon quarterbacking, I believe they call it, especially on the conservative side in Canada. Everybody's looking at the polls, and almost every right-wing news journalist in Canada has basically their whole election coverage is how they would run the campaign. Like, how is that? Not trying to be like rude or insulting or anything.
No, you're not. You know, I've been saying a lot of that. I have been saying a lot of that.
Like, to me, it's like everybody's opportunity to cover this election however they choose to. And I just find that everybody on the right-wing news journalism side is basically just Sunday afternoon quarterbacking rather than dealing with the facts that are presented to us. Right? We can speculate all day about whether decision A or decision B was right over the last 15 days and over the next 15 days. But at the end of the day, like, you should be evaluating the candidates based off of the positions that they hold and what those positions will mean for the future of the country, not just what's happening in this 30-day band of time.
I think what we have here, though, is a lot of people, they feel like this is bigger than the candidates that are running in this election. This election is so consequential for so many people and so many lives that when they see the candidates going in not in the direction that they feel is like enthusiastic enough that it's like, why are you sitting down when you should be running? And this is where this enthusiasm is coming from. This is where people are doing this Sunday morning quarterbacking, because they're like, I'm trusting you. I'm trusting you to win this. And we see you looking like you're not going to win this, or at least not making the moves that will get the win. And I think a lot of this comes from people who have followed conservative politics in Canada for a number of years, and they watched Aaron O'Toole sit down and lose it. They watched Andrew Scheer sit down and lose it when they could have taken it, gone for the stride, and possibly come out with a win. And people are afraid that this is the path that Pierre might take. And this is where I've been vocal on this. It's not a case of don't want him to win. It's a case of, come on, we want you to win. Get up. Get up and go, right?
It's your right to watch the game however you want to, right?
Yeah.
But when you're yelling at the quarterback to make the play that you want to make, I mean, you're not in the game, right? Just enjoy the game.
Yeah, sure.
Right?
I'll take that. But I'll also take the crap that I was getting today when people were saying, yeah, look, Clyde, the Pierre Poilievre has been doing podcasts. And I just said, you're welcome.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to be rude again, but I have never heard of those podcasters before in my life.
No, but can I talk about the podcast a bit? Because
Not trying to
so there's a few things about the podcast. This, first of all, is massive for Pierre Poilievre and his team. He did the right thing with the podcast. And the reason is that, and I'll share a story just from today. I spoke to a electrician today, and I said, "Oh, there's an election coming up. Are you planning on voting?" And he said, "I don't know. I don't know if I'm going to vote, but I'm for sure not going to vote for Pierre Poilievre." And I said, "Oh, why wouldn't you vote for him?" He said, "He's Donald Trump, and I don't want to vote for Donald Trump." And I said, "Oh, really? Why would you think that?" And he said, And what's interesting is, like, I think that Apple video, and then most of what he sees on the news where they paint and they see Pierre Poilievre attacking the CBC or he's always on offense, but we never see Pierre Poilievre like his authentic self. And so he's always on attack. And so, for example, this person, they just know him as Trump. And that's what I'm afraid millions of Canadians are thinking the exact same thing. So how do you break that down? It's by actually showcasing a real person, a person, talk about, and the only way to do that. So, and one of the other things that was really interesting is he could have gone on my podcast or your podcast, or he could have gone to any person that is more, conservative voter or conservative side and done a podcast with them. But that wouldn't be a very good strategy. And the reason is that he needs to tap into the people that have never voted before, like I talked about before, and the people that are like, I don't know who I'm going to pick. And those are the people that he needs to talk to. And the only way to do that is to get someone that's maybe not, maybe left, or maybe center, like they haven't, or, they're undecided themselves. So a little bit different. And they did a fantastic job at doing that. The last podcast with, what's his name?
Nobody does.
Spencer?
Sorry.
No, he did an exceptional job.
Good job.
Oh, it was really good, but like a relative unknown, and that's good too. That's good because
he's not unknown. He's got 300, and he's the.
That's a good point. So I guess
knowledge project. So
in political circles, he's not as well known, and this is a good point. He needs to branch out of just being in the political circles. Like I've said it before, like don't come on my podcast, go on some Dude Bros podcast, go on go on some podcast that has like young people watching it.
Maybe if you went on the Diagolon podcast.
Oh, well, not on that.
No,
but I am suggesting that he goes on podcasts that demographics that are not paying attention to politics might tune into. And I think that this is what he just did. And I think that's great.
Yeah, so this guy's name is Shane Parrish. His podcast is the Knowledge Project podcast on YouTube. If you haven't watched the podcast, I would definitely recommend watching it. It was honestly, we got to see the authentic, true authentic. He talked about his children, with his daughter being special needs, and and how he could relate to that in based on his own. And why do you think they attack him saying, why don't you let CBC or whoever on your campaign trail? It's like, do they not know that he might need to have special alone time with his daughter, special needs? Like, they don't think about that, and they don't present it like that either. Nobody thinks about that. But now we know that about him. So we could, as people in Canada, we could critically think, oh, CBC's attacking Pierre for not allowing but now we know potentially why, right? I mean, he needs to have his family, private family with his situation, right?
And kudos to him for not using it as a crutch, right? Like a lot of people on the left, you would see do, like they've got a kid with special needs, and then they would use that as like a virtue signal. And Pierre's never done that. And then to find out later that's the actual scenario that he has in his home, it's commendable. It's commendable.
If I could just return back to the point that Mark made about the electrician saying that he's like Trump, because I think that's a really important one. And I think that this is also a place where the independent media could make a big difference in this election, because the left-wing media certainly isn't looking to develop any space between that perception and what is reality. But there is absolutely no connection between Poilievre and Trump. And there's a really great article. It was written by a guy named Anthony Koch. I hope I'm pronouncing his name correctly. It was an op-ed. I think it was for it was for the National Post, where he says MAGA is not a conservative movement. And it absolutely isn't. The views of MAGA politics right now are completely diametrically opposed to what Poilievre is doing. Tariffs, for instance, are more regulation, more taxes. Poilievre has been remarkably consistent all the way going back to high school, that he's a low regulation, low tax person. Trump is really engaging, and whether you agree with it or not is really neither here nor there. It means nothing to me. But he's engaging in grievance politics, and he's engaging in politics that desires to increase government taxes and increase government regulations. That's what tariffs are. So Poilievre's positions and Trump's positions could not be more diametrically opposed. And so this idea that Poilievre is like Trump is really absurd on its face. And I think that whether you support Trump or not, again, you kind of have an obligation to explain that to your viewers.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
I would agree. Yeah.
And
Go ahead.
One thing I want to add is, this whole thing is a liberal spin. Let's be real, because if that's the only thing they have, without the Trump anything, they have to run on their 10-year track record. How's that going to? They were at the lowest poll ever for the Liberal Party, 16%. They were so low, they would literally, it was annihilation. Like it was unreal. 250 seats for the Conservatives. The only thing that brought them back to life is Donald Trump. And why do you think we still have the tariffs? Because it benefits the Liberals. They're actively sabotaging our economy in order to get reelected. And they're going to actively continue to sabotage our country in the name of climate change. We know this. This is why it's such an important election. It's unreal. One thing that I saw on this podcast yesterday, if we could go back to that, is Pierre Poilievre was asked straight up about the WEF and the elites and Mark Carney. He said, you have a stance on that. Like, explain it. And he said, which was absolutely amazing, is he said, you know what? This is the difference between Mark Carney and I. And Pierre said, I believe in you, the people of Canada. Okay. I don't want the government to be in your life. I don't want to impose and tell you what kind of car you're going to drive in 10 years, which is only electric with the Liberals. They already put 2035, every single Canadian will only buy an electric vehicle. The thing is, the difference between the two candidates is crystal clear. Pierre Poilievre has straight up said, I want to get government out of your life. I want to bring freedom to this country, and I want you to decide what you want. If you want an electric car, go buy an electric car. If you want to run 3 businesses, I'm not going to impede your businesses. Right now, we have so much government inside our life that it's like, I don't want to work overtime because you're going to take over 50 whatever percent. Plus, when I spend the money, it's like 70% of the money I make in overtime is going to taxes. There's no incentive to work hard in this country. None. Like it's so what he said, it was so smart. Another thing he said is what is unbelievable is he said, you know what? The plumber, the workers in this country are smarter than the WEF, the elites, the
I like
people
that.
with PhDs. Why? Because, for example, Mark Carney said he was advising our government for 5 years. And he said, yeah, print the money and help the economy. And then the electrician and the plumber are like, Pierre, this is going to cause inflation. These are just normal people. They're saying it. But yet the best of the best, the world elites, the people with the PhD and whatever, they're the ones that are like, yeah, we should do this. This is great. And look what happened. We had the worst inflation in 40 years. It's unreal. And so the people, he's like, the people are smarter. Let's give the power back to the people. He's like, I'm here for that. And the other side is they think they know best.
There's an ideological difference here, right? So when it comes, Pierre, he's talking about a bottom-up approach. Everything should start from, the family, then move out to local businesses, local economy, that kind of thing, and then move upwards. And then you have the top-down approach coming from Mark Carney with the hubris, of writing a book praising Karl Marx and Engels, right? And having this top-down approach, central authority approach, central mechanisms to the economy, openly shunning, saying that capitalism is a mistake. It's not a good system of organization, not a good system of bringing people into commerce. We need to have a top-down approach, and that's it's unpopular. People don't want that.
What other country has that type of top-down approach? And that will lead us to the next discussion point, right? I could only think of one. What is the other country that retaliated to the U.S. tariffs?
China.
There's only two. Mm-hmm. There's Canada and China. Those are the two countries that retaliated against the U.S.
Can I be the unpopular voice in the room right now, though? Because the vast
this is why we invited you.
We gotta have
appreciate that. The vast majority of Canadians don't give a shit about China. Excuse my French. I don't know if I'm allowed to swear on here. They just care about Trump because Canada is just American TV with Canadian commercials. That's all it is. Canadians just think about America all day. China is on the other side of the world, and America feels like the elephant sitting next to the mouse. And so for the Conservatives to win, what they need to do is they need to distance themselves from Donald Trump. And they also need to prove, I think, to voters in the middle that Poilievre will be superior at negotiating with Trump. And on that point, I received a message yesterday from an Afghan war veteran. And he says, this is a failure of leadership and negotiation. The fact that Mark Carney has not pointed out that over 150 Canadian men and women died in Afghanistan to protect the United States under Article 5 of NATO after 9/11. He has not mentioned Afghanistan a single time in his negotiations with Trump. That means he either doesn't know Canadian history, he doesn't understand it, or he doesn't care. And Trump said that in no circumstances could he envision a world in which other countries would defend the United States. And in fact, that did happen, and Canada did that. And that should be, in my opinion, one of our main pieces of leverage. Canada did not lose a single battle in Afghanistan. We lost soldiers to friendly fire to the Americans. This is, in my opinion, our number one leverage point. Only Poilievre has brought it up amongst all of the party leaders. I think that's important to know.
Yeah, and Poilievre is the only one that mentioned veterans altogether. he was that yesterday. He mentioned on his in Ottawa that he came out and said, let's take care of our veterans. It's, let's take care of our veterans. That's nice to hear. And you talk about, veterans having trouble getting medical services and applying for things. And he's like, we're going to speed it up. It's going to get automatically approved after 4 months. These are things that actually mean something to Canadians. And so it's nice to see that he's coming out and talking about it. Mark Carney hasn't said anything about that. And I don't know if you guys, I want to go back to China. I hear what you're saying, Alex, but I have to go back to China.
Important. Yeah. China is important.
No, but I just want Canadians to know, like, I went on to Mark Carney's X account. Okay. And you could, on X, you could go to their page, and on the right hand of their page, you could search a tweet that's in their historical tweets, and all I put was China. That's it. And once I did that, guess what showed up? Can you guys guess? When I searched China on Mark Carney's page, what showed up?
Nothing.
Same with zero. No, but the thing, no. It's so crazy because we just got imposed 100% tariff on our agriculture, canola oil, seed oil, all like and we are the fourth largest provider of that product to China, and it represents $7.8 billion. It is insane amount of money. And our seafood products, China just imposed this on us, and we haven't. And he's the unelected prime minister, but he's in charge, and he has not mentioned China once. Does that not blow your mind?
But in defense of Mark Carney, I can't believe I'm going to do this.
Let's see
Canada's trade relationship with the United States is greater than its relationship with every other country, I believe, on Earth combined. That's all of Europe, all of China. It's our single biggest trading partner. So I can see why he would be prioritizing one over the other. I mean,
I hear you, but it just doesn't. The thing is that I mean, would you feel comfortable voting for someone that doesn't look out for the Canadian farmers and the rest of the people in this country? No, I'm just hey, you're defending him quite a bit. What's going on here? What's going on here? No, but all I'm saying is, like, I'm trying to show Canadians that there's a lot of Canadians that are going to be suffering from this. Our Canadian farmers, like, they're looking at this going, hey, where's the leadership here? We haven't heard one thing about it, right? So it's absolutely incredible. And in leadership, I would expect we're doing this for the farmers or whatnot. But you know what it is that he doesn't need the West. He doesn't need anything past Ontario and the East. I mean, to be elected. So really, that's what.
I'm just pretending I'm like in the war room right now. The fact that Carney is not denouncing China is really a favor to the Conservative Party. I mean, if you were to take a tough on China stance in the next 15 days, that would be probably not the best thing for the Conservatives.
Oh, so you're saying that they have points against Carney because he's not touching the issue?
Yeah. I mean, really,
well, especially right now. So what's been breaking on Twitter recently, just today, this is this story of was it RCMP just had a whistleblower come out with the names of 9 different cabinet members in Carney's cabinet. So this is CCFR saying, breaking, Libs fail to act on foreign interference. Evidence just released in an open letter sent to Mark Carney by Sergeant Peter Merrifield and Deputy Paul McNamara. I guess both. One's retired. Shows the Liberal government knew about foreign interference, but chose not to ignore it at their own benefit. And then they have the details here. So the open letter here, and it's disclosing a bunch of names. We've got Marco Domenichino, Dominic LeBlanc, Bill Blair, David McGuinty, the guy who put forward NSICOP, the whole thing in the first place. So like all of these people are being outed as known to the RCMP to have being essentially compromised by the Chinese Communist Party. This is
does this list surprise anyone? That's
no, it doesn't surprise me at all.
No, there's some notable omissions. Like Baines should be on there for sure. The Senator Wen, he should be on there. I've actually done quite a bit of research into this topic, so I don't want to downplay it. I think that China is a very serious issue. Hong Kongers, I've spoken to a lot of Hong Kong Democracy Watch groups on this file, and they don't even feel comfortable going out and protesting anymore because they don't feel like they're going to be safe, and they don't believe that the government is going to protect them. We just saw recently 4 Canadians were executed in China due to drugs, which I find particularly ironic, given that 99% of the fentanyl and fentanyl precursors all come from China.
Yes,
so I find that really ridiculous that they would be executing Canadians for drugs. Yeah, I mean, China is obviously a very big issue, but I don't think it's going to move the needle amongst people in the middle. If
you mean just for the election?
China, hasn't convinced them to not vote Liberal already, it probably never will. I mean, we have more than a mountain load of evidence at this point.
So this is the crazy thing about this election. I've seen it as like there are so many liberals that are just going to vote Liberal. It doesn't matter what. They're so primed against conservatives. It doesn't matter what evidence you show them. They just dig their heels in harder. They just want those liberals to get in. And when Justin Trudeau his popularity started really waning and it was getting really bad. Now there was a lot of those diehard liberals that were just the Trudeau effect kind of usurped their love for the Liberal Party, or at least their loyalty to the Liberal Party. It usurped that. And we heard from a lot of different MPs across the country going on the news and saying, I'm getting letters from my constituents. They're saying, we love you in our riding, you're our guy, but if it comes down to it and Trudeau's the leader, we're not voting Liberal. We're going to vote Conservative. And as soon as they were successful at ousting Trudeau, the polls started swinging towards the Liberals. And I thought that's a no-brainer. They said that was what they were doing. The constituents were saying this in polling. They were saying it to their MPs. Their voices were being expressed in Parliament and on the news. So it's a natural progression for those people to return back to the Liberal Party and vote in that direction. So when I hear a lot of people saying, don't believe the polls, it's not true, I think, well, with that fundamental happening, and then you add the Trump derangement syndrome that's going on in Canada, I think the polling data could be accurate.
Well, no, like you're right about so the Liberal base is the Liberal base. They're going to go, and guess what? They're going to show up and vote. So the only way for the Conservatives to win this election is for those silent millions of Canadians that I talked about. The close to 40% of Canadians in 2021 didn't show up and vote. If those people want change, they could literally take this country back for Canada. Like, there's, the conservative group's going to vote, the liberal group's going to vote, and everybody in the middle controls who's going to win this thing. So let's rally up. Like, I mean, I tell people, and guess what? Guess who should be very motivated? And last election, it was like 50-something% of people in the age of 18 and 22. It was like, I don't know if it was 55 or 60%. Those ones just didn't show up. Like they didn't go and vote. But those people are older now, so they're probably going to vote because they're paying taxes and going, these taxes are so crazy. I need relief. And they know where they have to vote for that kind of relief. But those people that are 18 to 22, if they show the new ones that are finally able to vote and they're voting for the first time, I highly encourage everybody that's viewing this, if you know somebody that's in between the age of 18 and 22, you call them and tell them you will drive them to the voting station. You will take them to vote for the first time. Don't tell them who to vote for. They can make their own decision. But at the same time, encourage them to learn about the politics, learn about the candidates, learn about what kind of future they want from themselves, what kind of thing that they want. And when they do that, go vote, and it's going to make a difference. And I guarantee you, a lot of the younger voters are going to look and go, well, why would I vote Liberal? And then why are people voting Liberal? There's a few reasons why. The older people are voting Liberal because they know it's going to guarantee to double the housing costs, because that's what their track record is on. Like they've doubled the house the last 10 years. They've encouraged the price of our housing to go up. Even the Conservatives did as well. It was on its way up already. It went up 77% with the Conservatives, but it also went up 100% with the Liberals, right? So
I can see you disagreeing, Alex.
I couldn't disagree more strongly. So I think that is, again, I can't believe that I'm doing this, but I'm going to defend the Liberal boomer vote.
Here we go.
I want to hear about it, Alex. What are you seeing? What are you hearing?
I don't think that boomers care at all about the value of their home going up at all. You work in finance. I worked in finance. From my experience, there are only three types of people that want housing prices to go up. It's people who are on heaven's door. So they're leaving it as an asset legacy to their kids. Those people watch their BC assessment incessantly because that's their asset legacy. The other group are people who are very highly leveraged. And the third group is realtors and developers. When you really think about it, that's not that many people. For the vast majority of people, if you're not leveraging using your home equity, the only thing that matters when the housing price goes up is your property tax goes up. I mean, nobody really wants the value of their house on paper to go up every year unless they're actually planning on selling. So I think that's a bit of a mischaracterization of the Liberal boomer vote. I think and I believe that the polling data fleshes this out quite accurately, that they believe, against all logic, reason, facts, data, and anecdotal evidence, that Poilievre is going to be more kind to Trump than Carney will be. That's what all of the data polling suggests. That's what your anecdotal evidence suggests. That electrician that you spoke to, I've spoken to many people on the street who say exactly the same thing. They just associate Poilievre with Trump. God knows why. Probably because that's what the news media keeps telling them.
That's what they do keep telling them.
And that's sad, because that means people are misinformed.
Exactly. Because, if I can just, I'll land my plane very quickly here. Right-wing news journalists are saying, I really wish Poilievre would be more like Trump. And the left-wing news media, which is mainstream media, are saying Poilievre is too much like Trump. Clearly, both of these things can't be true at once.
No, they can't be.
No. There's something wrong here in the narrative on both sides. And I'll just land my plane there.
Well, and I'm glad you nailed that, and you started getting into. Oh, sorry, I need to pause something here. So I heard you both saying your piece there, and Mark, you got into the idea that people are just misinformed, and this is why I titled the stream tonight as that. What do voters know? We hear what they hear on the news. We hear what their sentiment is, but what do they really know? Like, what do they know going into the polls? Are they informed? Are they making decisions based on what they know is accurate, and then making a decision based on a clear-headed decision on that? Or are they just completely being, manipulated with emotional things? The news media, social media, influencers, everybody's running a narrative, and our people are just completely emotionally driven. Yeah.
Unfortunately, I think people are misinformed. Think about it. The Liberals had this carbon fantasy. Carbon tax is going to save the planet. Okay. And they continue to push it. And then for 6 straight years, they've risen it all the way up to $90 per ton. And then 28, the shortest election period in Canadian history, 28 days, they didn't remove anything. They just brought it down to 0. So, I mean, it's still there. That they could have opened up Parliament for a couple of days to have it physically removed, like it's gone, but they didn't do that because the election is already happening. They just open it, get rid of it, but they didn't do that. Think about that. They just brought it down to 0 so that people forget all of the years upon years into paying for this climate change thing. And one thing that really bothers me, and people are really misinformed, is think about this. And Pierre Poilievre tries to explain it to people, but people don't listen to Pierre Poilievre because they're, it's Trump, Trump this. The thing is Canada is, our technology and the way we do things is green. We want to save the planet. What person in Canada doesn't want to save the planet? We all care about each other and we care about the planet. And that's why we like foreign aid. We want to help people like that. We're a happy country and we're diverse. We got all different races and we work together and we work together. We're one big family. And so we all want the same thing. We want to save the planet. We want this, but what's the best way to do it? And the way that liberals have done it is they believe that they have the best strategy, when in fact, the best strategy is, guess what, Canada and the world, the pollution from China, the pollution from India, that air comes here. That air is literally, as soon as it goes into the atmosphere, it goes all over the world. It's as if the liberals think that only Canada's air stays in Canada. Like, as if we get to net zero, then there'll be no more climate change in Canada. Like, are they for real? And people are buying this thing up going, if we get to net zero, then we're gonna stop these forest fires. First of all, the forest fires have been going on forever. And if you actually look at the forest fire charts, we have less forest fires now than ever in history, like that less amount. And the thing is the reason we have catastrophic forest fires is because they don't clean the forest. They allow these, we're so good at turning out these fires that the brush and all of the dead trees build up. They're told, you got to clean up these dead trees. No, it's all about nature. We can't touch the bugs. It's going to kill the bird's nest or whatever. The problem is that this fuel just builds up and builds up. And then you need one cigarette, you need one lightning, or you need somebody throws their beer bottle or a glass on the side of the road that reflects into the thing. And it's boom. And then they're going to blame climate change and raise taxes to the moon. It's just, this is the strategy Canada needs to have. And Pierre Poilievre's offering this, is we need to sell our natural gas to the world because, for example, China has 37 coal-fire plants, like coal plants. They're burning coal. We're selling our Canadian coal to China to burn, which is absolutely absurd. Think about this. If we, in the 3,700 coal plants are burning something like 8 billion tons of CO2 per year. Canada's emissions are 700 million tons. If we sold, and listen to this, our CO2, if we our natural gas, it burns 50% less CO2 for the same amount of energy. So coal, it's less efficient. Gas is more efficient, meaning you need less of it to create the same environment to get the power. So if we sold and replaced all of the 37 and it's burning something, so it's not that hard to change. We're burning coal. Now we're burning natural gas. We're burning to create the heat, right? So if we sold all our natural gas, and in BC alone, I believe we have 1.4 trillion cubic feet of this stuff. If we sold it to China, it would reduce their emissions by 4 billion tons of CO2. And it's the same air around the world. So we could be, what is that? Seven divided, we could be like 7 times below. We're already at net zero with our forests, but I'm just saying from our emissions, our 700 million tons of emissions, we could literally be negative by 7 times by just making that move for the world.
I like the other point that Pierre Poilievre brought up, and it was the idea that if we were to just bring manufacturing back to Canada and take it away from China, we do things cleaner in Canada than they do over there. So if that manufacturing took place over here, yeah, we'd have maybe a little bit more CO2 production here, but globally it would be a lot less. That's 8 times. There you go. You know the stat there.
Yeah, it's 8 times less pollution from our steel, for example, than China's steel. And just our abstraction of oil. Like we are one of the cleanest extraction of oil, and they're also coming up with new technology to be able to capture the carbon. Like the thing is about our oil and gas industry is they're really stepping up to, like they care about the planet too. We're all humans. Even the people that are running them, they're humans. They want to do it more efficiently, because actually if you do it cleaner and more efficient, then you're also saving the bottom line as well. You're like, it's a win for everybody. And the thing is,
oil sands in Alberta are a giant natural oil spill. We are cleaning the environment by cleaning it up.
Well, they're not going to tell you that. They're going to say it's just look at these open pits. It looks so dark and black, and But the thing is like if we we do it cleaner, right? So if we're displacing the world's pollution by doing it properly in house at home, doing it the right way. For example, there's something that blew my mind that I found out. So BC, for example, we don't have. So when you go to the store and you get all these packagings, everything's in a package, even the fruits and vegetables, you'll get a bag. It's all in plastic and packaging. Well, BC, because we're so green in BC, we don't have a back. No, there's no packing facility that's able to do that because we have such stringent environmental rules, right? So they're like, oh, I want Canadians just to buy only Canadian goods. Well, that's impossible because we need the US to package, even if we grew all our food in BC, we send our food to the US to be packaged because we don't allow packaging in BC. Can you believe that? And then, so we have to send it to the US, and then they package it, and then they ship it back to us because the US doesn't have the regulations, and they can do it cheaply. How absurd is that? That's why our whole country is backwards. It's all backwards. It's all doesn't make sense. If we want it, Trump is not the problem. It's our country that's the problem. Our politicians need to shake themselves awake and actually solve problems in this country. That's the problem. We were doing things dumb. Okay, we need to fix our country, and sending our stuff to another country that pollutes 10 times more to send it back to us is nonsense. And it's the same thing with our carbon tax. When we had our carbon tax, the CO2 that they were burning in the greenhouses to make these massive tomatoes and stuff, it was cost more money because of the carbon tax, and it increased the cost, that it was cheaper to get Mexican tomatoes shipped to Canada. And then think about all the CO2 to ship it across the continent to Canada, but it was cheaper in the stores. People are buying the Mexican stuff. Like, what are we doing? What are we doing?
You're paying a carbon tax to produce carbon dioxide so that plants can eat it and produce oxygen. I mean, it's
correct. And there's another thing that Canadians need to know. There's a huge thing. Is Donald Trump's, he didn't go full tilt and do the 25% tariff on everything. He has selected a few industries that he believes we are ripping them off. So it's just making it fair. That's what he says. I mean, we could argue all we want. I mean, I'm Team Canada, so I'm not for Trump at all. But think about this. If he actually did the 25% tariff across the board, okay, it was shown by that Pollock, which is an old, like the Bank of Canada Pollock guy. He came onto CTV and he said, "Listen to this, Canada." So it's not me saying this. This is like, someone that knows about this. He said, just the interprovincial trade is 5 to 7% increase on your paycheck. Each human being, 41 million people, your paycheck would go up 5 to 7%, which is equivalent to 22 to 25% increase in it's basically the tariff in the US would be wiped out just if we didn't have tariff each other between the provinces. It would, if we fixed our own country, it wouldn't, the US wouldn't even matter. It's like, fine, you put 25%, we're not going to retaliate. Sorry, maybe we'll take away some of the tariffs we have on you guys. But in the meantime, let's figure out what we're doing in Canada with our own tariffs between the provinces, which is causing equivalent damage, 22 to 25%.
So Mark Carney actually did address that, and he said he was going to make basically a NAFTA for Canada. and again, it's another one of these top-down approach things. So he wanted to make a one economy out of the entire country. So everything's, again, central authority, centrally planned, that sort of thing.
I have a question for you, Clyde. Do you trust what Mark Carney said he's going to do?
If you read his book, I trust what he says in his book. I think if you look at what his life plans are, what he says in,
you're trying to make me out like some kind of Carney supporter.
You didn't even ask. No, No, because it was Clyde that was asking that. He was the one that said, "Go ahead, Alex. I want to hear from you."
Yeah.
No, thanks. Thanks for asking. I don't trust a thing. I don't trust a thing because so this is a huge issue I have with the Carney campaign too. He was apparently a special advisor to the Trudeau government since 2020. That's 4 years, and now he's running against their record. So either
we're 2025. We're 2025. So it's almost 5 years.
Sorry.
Yeah.
It feels like
he's running against his own policies. But
exactly.
what I was getting to, what I was saying,
policies.
Well, in his book, what he writes in his book, they are his policies. This is what his life's work is. So what he's promising in the campaign is it's completely the opposite of what his life's work is. So why would you assume that he would do any of this stuff that he's saying in the campain?
Exactly. No, either he's been a liar his entire life until just 2 weeks ago, and now he's finally telling the truth.
No, but there's one thing that
or the party that he's now running for never listened to him once. In which case, why is he running for them? Neither of those things make sense.
Well, I heard a lot of people saying, why didn't he run as a conservative after he stole all of Pierre Poilievre's ideas? But one thing is, it's just absurd. But the thing is keep going. No, keep going, Alex. It's all good. You got the spotlight.
Well, it just doesn't make any sense to me. Like he's basically running against the Liberals' record, which again means that only two things could be true. Either they didn't listen to him, in which case why is he running for them, or they did listen to him and he has suddenly changed his mind, like just in a matter of weeks and days, against all of the principles that he wrote.
But I have a question. How do you become as he describes an energy superpower that is net zero? Explain that to me.
He doesn't even want to repeal Bill C-69, which is what prevents us from doing anything of any importance energy-wise across the country, right? That's the
it's hopeless.
Yeah,
it's hopeless.
What do you guys think about Danielle Smith? She put, what is it, nine items? Is it 9 or 12? I forget. She said 9 items that are we're done getting bullied by Liberals in Ottawa. We're done. And so she preemptively, as a strategy, saying, if you guys vote for, Mark Carney and the Liberals and they don't do the 9 items, then, we're going to talk to our citizens and see what they want to do. So I don't know what you guys
we don't need Danielle Smith to secede from Canada in order for individuals to secede from Canada. I have spoken to so many people who have said, if the Liberals get reelected, I am leaving the country. Yeah. And these are the people who can't, right? I mean, a lot of us can't, and I feel bad for us, but some people can, and they will. And I feel very strongly that they will leave, and that will be a huge capital and brain drain. We don't have to get into constitutional arguments because ultimately, at the end of the day, individuals are decision makers, and that to me is the biggest concern, and why this election is one of generational importance to me, at least.
Yeah, I think you're right.
And I agree. Yeah, I agree. I've spoken to a lot of people. The people that can't leave, what I'm hearing is they want to move to Alberta. And, they're already starting to make plans. They're like, because what they're worried about is, when I spoke to them, they said, I kind of want to make the move now, even before the election, because they see the polls and it looks like it's going to be a Liberal win. And they're like, if the Liberals win, right now, Alberta has some of the most affordable real estate in Canada. And that might be, there might be a boom in Alberta like we've never seen before in history. Like it could just rip based on imagine 1 million people moving to Alberta. Well, this is not a fairy tale. This is for real. Even myself, I'm right. I might move to Alberta too.
You also
I was born and raised in the Lower Mainland, and I'm like, it's just.
Have you been there?
Pardon?
Have you
been there? Yeah. I've been all over. I've been all over Canada. I would not. I mean, anything.
I get. I like Alberta. It's
Alberta or BC. I could see. Beyond that, I mean, I'm more comfortable in the West.
I really think, again, just individuals like leaving the country altogether, because you have two things that are going on as well. You have a generational shift. So a lot of boomers are heading into pension territory. So a lot of them don't need to work in Canada. You know, especially if they're getting an employer pension. I'm talking retired teachers, retired nurses. They could easily move to Mexico, you know, and have half the cost of living. Then you also have all of these young people who are quite disenfranchised with the current government that are working from home. So they also have the opportunity to go live in Mexico. That's a lot of capital and a lot of brain drain.
Yeah. And well, let's not ignore the fact that there is a growing movement of people in Alberta wanting to separate and become its own country. And we don't have to go down the road of like, it's going to be the 51st state, but become an independent state of its own. And that's a popular and growing issue. If a lot of people flee other parts of the country in the instance of a Liberal win to go to Alberta, I think a lot of those people would be more apt to becoming, you know, voting for that independence as well.
Yeah, and that's sad because, you know, and I've been trying to tell people, like, don't vote for that. Like, we don't want to separate this country. This country is, you know, this is our country. We should be together. We need to vote for Pierre Poilievre. Wake up, Canada. Like, what the hell are we talking about? Like, we need to vote for Pierre Poilievre to take back control of our country. We can't go down the other way. It's so sad. Like, we've been divided as a country for 10 years. Like, it's like we weren't able to fly the flags. Now we have to have a flag. And, you know, I saw people were campaigning and they're for the Conservatives, and they were knocking on doors with Canada flags. And guess what those people did? Oh, you're Conservatives? Slammed the door in their face. What the hell? Like, the Canada flag is supposed to be unity, you know, but that's not what it represents.
Another weird thing about this election that just kind of crossed my mind is one thing I always appreciated about Canadians was their love for the underdog. And, you know, I think that most Canadians probably identify somewhere on the political spectrum of Obama Democrats. Like, Obama was a very popular president in Canada, regardless of like how most conservative Canadians feel about him, because of his working class background. You know, he was born from a single mother, and, you know, he was a real underdog and a real overachiever given his life circumstances. It just seems like totally contrary to me, like the culture of Canada, that people would say, yeah, we should really pick this unelected central banker over.
Yeah, it makes no sense. It makes no sense.
Yeah, it just, goes against everything that my grandparents ever told me about Canadians and how we feel about, you know, the Canadian dream, right? I guess maybe there is no Canadian dream. I don't know.
All right. Well, I'm going to get to some of these questions here. So I got questions from the audience here.
I completely forgot about chat. Let's talk to the chat. Yeah. What's going on over there?
I've been trying not to ignore the chat, but yeah, a lot of people in here. Jevon Jandrew with a $6.99 super chat says, "Weird that a Chinese app would have censorship." TikTok.
Oh God, it's so crazy. Yeah, weird. It's so weird, but it's crazy over there. It's. I mean, what I don't understand is
on my WeChat.
What I don't understand is, like, why were they trying to ban it when it's the most censored crazy thing I've ever seen? Like, wouldn't that be the app that they want to encourage people to use because it's completely censored? Like, I don't get it.
Well, it's censored for the left. I guess the right would want to ban
but China wants Carney, right?
Oh yes, yeah, absolutely, yeah. China wants Carney. Yeah, yeah. I'm not sure. We've got David Bell becoming a member of the channel. Thank you so much for becoming a member, David Bell. That's awesome. Also with a super chat says, "Hey guys, RCMP sent an open letter to Carney identifying 9 people for foreign interference." Yeah, we
touched on that.
Yeah, we touched on that. I want to get more of the details. I only know that much. Literally, that's about all I know about it. Mr. Roscoe Pico for 5 says, "RCMP releases 9 liberal traitors names today." Yep, a lot of people are wanting to know about this. Also, David.
So
Edwards
just to mention,
commenting the same thing. So, we're not done with this. We got Gary McKellar for 5 saying huge RCMP whistleblowers, 9 traitors in Carney's party. Is there any other immediate ones? Okay, no, go ahead.
Can I comment on that for 1 second? Because I find this very interesting and relevant to the comments. All of the police associations who have voiced their opinion have all backed Poilievre. I feel like that's relevant.
That is very relevant.
Yeah.
They're all about law and order. They're looking at the streets and going, this is unsafe for our officers. This is unsafe for the public. Like, we can't continue down this road. And Carney is part of that apparatus that brought this about. He's not the one to change it.
Clyde, do you have the that letter the Liberals sent to the prisoners?
I do. Let's pop it up here.
I just love that the RCMP is turning heel on the Liberal Party.
Yeah, that's good.
Well, I mean, they were doing it last year as well. I mean, it was just kind of.
So this is a letter. The font is very small. You wanted me to read it out, or
no?
Can you get the? So there's a letter that was sent to the prisoners, warning them to prison. So in Canada, in 2002, there was a case one which allowed prisoners to vote in Canada. So people are allowed, if you're a prisoner incarcerated, they're allowed to vote. They in Canada. In the US, it's state by state. Some states say, you've committed a crime, you're not voting, guaranteed.
Now,
so, but in
record,
Canada,
I'm not a fact checker like Rachel Gilmore, but I'm not sure.
You're talking about the Liberals sending to the inmates?
Yeah.
So the Liberals. I'm not sure if this letter is legitimate, to be honest with you. I'm not sure if it's authentic.
Okay.
Why would you say that, Alex?
Somebody had pointed out, and I believe it's true, for Government of Canada documents, generally in the bottom left corner, there will be an alphanumeric code. And in this case, it looks like it came from somebody's C drive. That's what it said in the community notes. Now, I'm no Government of Canada document analyst or anything.
The picture I have is cut off.
Yeah.
So it doesn't show that bottom number. But
I mean, Larry Brock posted. I love Larry Brock, so if I'm wrong, forgive me.
That's the thing. I mean, Larry Brock, he doesn't. He's legit. Larry.
Yeah,
Brock.
He's rock solid. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm a little skeptical.
So also, the one thing with this.
No, sorry, go ahead.
Well, I mean, based on the pins that we saw, this wouldn't surprise me. They got caught with the pins at the conservative thing. So it's this is the type of activity that we're seeing.
I would also just say that if the Liberals are courting incarcerated criminals in Canada to win the election, I don't think that's a winning strategy, given that there's only 23 incarcerated criminals in Canada at the moment.
What?
No, there's so I looked it all up.
Release policies. It's true. There's almost no incarcerated criminals anyway.
So there's actually 35,000 between 35,000 and 36,000 incarcerated people in Canada, and historically, 50%. Historically, 50% of them voted. Historically, but with this letter, potentially 80%
they don't have much else to do.
And so the way it works is it's not like they vote and then their vote would be for the prison where the prison's held. It's actually the home address of where they were incarcerated. So it would be dispersed across the country. It's not, so it's dispersed across the country. However, there are crime cities that have more crime, right? I mean, it could be, there's cities across the country that have potentially more crime. So there could be more, numbers in those cities. And then, so what the thing is that if there's any ridings, which is, it's pretty common, you could be within 200 votes. And I did a calculation that if you take the, 80% of the 35,000 and you just put it towards 50 ridings, that's 500 votes, 550 votes.
Yeah, I'm
a
bit confused.
It can make a difference.
I'm a bit confused on this one because, one, why is it that felons are allowed to vote? I thought when you lose your freedom, you also lose your right to vote.
Yeah, that makes sense, doesn't it? But in Canada, there was a court case in 2002 where a gentleman said it was because the way it's seen in Canada is our jail system is not permanent, and you can see it by the catch and release. Our jail system is a way, it's a bridge to let's rehabilitate the person. Let's give them more
that's fine,
chances.
but rehabilitate them and allow them to vote when they're rehabilitated. I mean, isn't
well, they're saying that it because it affects policy in the prison, like what we just saw, the letter getting sent to them, they get to vote. So that's why they.
I think that needs to be reviewed
here. I think prisoners should be allowed to vote because it's kind of a measure against tyranny, right? Like, imagine if they put us all in jail, right? Then it would be like,
no, I know, but I don't have
30,000 people voted.
The voting thing, like, I don't even want to touch on that. That's out of my, like, I don't even have an opinion there. The whole thing is that whatever about the voting, the whole thing is that if the Liberals are sending the prisoners, think about how bad that looks. Think about how bad it looks that, they basically exploded crime across the country. And now they're talking to the criminals saying, oh, they're going to be hard on crime. Doesn't that just look so bad?
Well, there's a lot of them. This is a recent article from last year. Ontario jails, including Windsor, operated over capacity last year. So like 129% capacity in that jail. Here's another article talking about Ontario expanding jail beds to deal with overflowing institutions.
This is a very regional issue, though. This is kind of my bread and butter is crime.
Is this a regional thing?
Yeah, it's totally regional. So in the Okanagan, for instance, the Oliver prison, which they just built recently, is at 20% capacity. Oh, so yeah, it really depends on which pocket of the country you're in.
But that's a maximum security, is it not, Alex?
I'm not too sure. I just know that it's way below capacity, and I know that that's true in a lot of jurisdictions in Canada. And it actually came up in one of the Poilievre podcasts. He had mentioned the same thing. So it really depends what part of the country you're in. Yeah,
that's a fair point. That's definitely a fair point. Let's get on with these questions. We got here's Gary Michaela for 5 says, see Moose on the Loose can't send paperwork pics on this. Subject newest news as of 6:15 tonight. So that would be the traders again, or the nine people outed. Was that Mark?
I actually watched it before coming on.
Okay. See, you got a bit of the info.
I love your show, David. I love your show, Moose on the Loose. Awesome. He did cover it. He just read the paperwork. So, but yeah, if you want to hear a little bit more about it, he published it earlier, and I took a look before the show.
Right on. So go check that out, everybody. Michael Hostetler for 2 says, all governments have screwed over their citizens. I'm not going to disagree with you there. I think that's just par for the course. Tamara Litch, that's a very familiar name, for $6.99 says, all 3 of you are doing great work, and it's great to see you together. Thanks for all you do. Thank you so much,
thanks, Tamara.
As we all know, Tamara and Chris just got a guilty verdict, but obviously, like everything else, all of the umpteen charges were dismissed.
Mischief every day.
It's a guilty for being Dennis the Menace. Like
what they did is terrible. I mean, there's so many Canadians that said, Tamara, feel for you, terrible. And I think they used it as a trap for the conservatives to make it a point for them to talk about it in the election, unfortunately. And it's just ridiculous.
I think that's an amazing. I actually think, and again, I'm going to make a very unpopular opinion here, but
You're good at it.
I think it's amazing that after that big protest and everything, and how unpopular it was, and Mark Carney called it sedition, and so did the government of Canada. They said it was an attempted coup, and all we got was a few mischief charges out of it. I actually kind of tip my hat to some extent to the court system. I've attended courts for the Coutts trial as well. I mean, obviously not a perfect court system, but they're in jail for way beyond what they deserve. But
I don't think there should be any charges whatsoever, in my opinion.
No, I agree.
If you take a look at what's happening in our streets right now, it's absolutely insane. I mean,
and putting these peaceful protesters in solitary confinement, and obviously the court system is not perfect whatsoever, but I still have some faith in our country.
There's some great people. Like
they gotta
we
work on
talked
that
about Larry
speedy
Brock.
trial
I mean,
thing.
like
Yeah,
we talked about Larry Brock. I mean, that guy's going to be solid for us in Canada.
Well, he has been. He has already been in committee, and I want to see the Conservatives get elected so he can have a little bit more push on a lot of the things that he's been saying. But yeah,
I mean, they put the Coots guys in jail for 6.5 years. I just wrote an article today about a fentanyl dealer, a prolific one, who only got 3 years, and now he's on full day parole. So obviously the system is not perfect, but it's not China yet.
yes. Well, let's hope it never becomes that.
Jesus. No, yeah. I mean, they don't talk about China until we become China. Jeez, don't talk about it because it's, and then we flip the switch and it's like, hello.
One day, little Chinese children will hear from their parents, like, make sure you vote. You don't want to become Canada one day.
I talked to the Chinese residents that are here. I have friends that, they're from China. I actually know quite a few people that actually immigrated here recently from China. And they say, we moved here to move away from the situation in China. And they're like, it's almost the same.
That's exactly it.
Oh, geez.
That's it. Michael Hostetler with another 2 says Canada equals 51st state of USA. Problem solved. LOL. Got a big disagreeing head shake from Alex.
It won't be problem solved. They got their own problems down there. It won't be problem solved.
We'll just have California politics and Alabama economy with Canada weather. I can't think of anything that sounds worse.
Well, I just see if Canada became the 51st state, I believe 41 million people will be moving to California or like down south, like, at least for partially of the year, right? I mean, it's just if we had this our dollar at par, I mean, that's why nobody's going to. They put on the paper every day saying, "Oh yeah, travel's down 20%." I'm like, that's it. The dollar is so bad. How is it only 20%? I mean, it should be 100%. Like, you go down there, it's almost $1.50. Like, it's just crazy. Our dollar's worthless. And guess what, Canada? The dollar is worthless because of our economic track record over the last 10 years. That's a gauge. Like, the gauge of our economy is based on how strong our dollar is. Our dollar is like this because of the last 10 years, not because of Donald Trump. It has nothing to do with Donald Trump. We dropped down this below 70 cents before Donald Trump. This has been a 10-year decline. So
VIP Pools and Spas for 10 says Pierre was on the Knowledge Project podcast, a podcaster from the US. Pierre needs to go on podcasts from Canada, not the US. Why are politicians going on US to talk with their media? Well, and this is because a lot of Canadians, they view American podcasts. I think
I hear this comment. However, for example, and I'll just say on my X account, I clipped a couple of the podcast and I published it. And let me just take a look. But the last I saw, and so it doesn't matter if it's US, Canada. I'm just trying to explain. I'm saying I understand where you're going with that. But the clip that I posted is at 500,000. Well, just under. It's at 434 right now, but it might be a million views, my clip on X. So think about that. You have to really think. And I put a pretty good write-up, and there's a lot of engagement and a lot of sharing. So does it really matter where the podcast is? And the podcaster did a fantastic job because he was kind of, he did a good job. Based on his questions and how he was, he really went at it, like the WEF question, he went at it. Check out the podcast. It was really well done.
I agree. But again, my sentiment is go where the Canadian audience is. Don't care about where the country, the origin of the podcast is. The Canadian audience is what's important, and the demographics of that audience. So if you're looking at going on a podcast that has, from Canada, but only has largely an American audience, well, what good is that, right? This is the nature of the internet. The internet will go where the audience is. Creators are everywhere, and the audiences are in pockets. So go where the voters are. introduce yourself to people who haven't heard of you. And I think that's a good strategy. And I think that's what Pierre did in this case. And I hope he does it more. We've still got 2 weeks, so he can definitely do it more. If he came on my podcast, for example, the Liberals would probably just have a heyday because of the things that I've said that are pro-American, pro-Trump, these kinds of things. It wouldn't be doing him a favor to come on my podcast, but to go on all these other podcasts that, again, neutral, maybe not even political in nature, and just want to get to know who this guy is. I think that's a great strategy. I think it's a fantastic strategy. And this is what I've been, Sunday morning quarterbacking about. I think it's a good way of doing it. I'm getting agreement here. All right. So Trish Brew with a $6.99 super chat. If the polls are rigged by who are answering the polls, then run the risk of some lib voters not showing up as they think the libs automatically will win. And this is a good point. So if the liberals are way confident, maybe a bunch of them will stay home. And if the conservatives think they're losing, maybe that'll motivate the conservatives to get off their butts and get out to the polls. Like that could be a thing.
The electrician I talked to today, he's like, yeah, I'm not voting because, the polls, liberals are going to win.
So there you go.
So there's some truth to that. I don't know. People have their suspicion about the polls, but Clyde, you made some valid points. And if a lot of the polls are polling like 55 plus, and they're only polling like a few 50 to 100 below 40 or 35, and then they have to, they have to skew it. They have to, populate it to make it grow, right? So there could be some like variance there where they're not like, okay, I'm doing like 200 people that are below the age of 25. I'm doing 235 to 45. They're not able to get the numbers. So on the lower end, because people are working, they're like, if you're working during the day, you're not going to pick up the phone for a poll. Like, actually, people don't even pick up if you don't recognize the number. Most people say, leave a message, I'll call you back, because it's probably a scam call. Probably like how many scam calls do you get in a day? Like, it's ridiculous.
Yeah, too many.
You see a different area code, you're not picking up. So
that's a really good point. That's a valid point. And I think the younger the audience, the more they are savvy to that. Like, just don't pick up the poll for numbers that are unknown caller, like Alex.
Yeah, and how do you know that the person that's voting? How do you know that the person that's voting in this poll is actually honest? How do you know that they're not like,
lying,
know, right?
Lying, saying I'm totally voting Carney.
Because
whatever.
I've actually spoken to people and they said, if they call me, I'm picking NDP. I'm like, what? But why would you do that? They're like, yeah, because that's what I want to show, right? I want to show.
What are you, nuts?
Not me. I'm just saying. I heard that. I was like, okay, all right. Like, there's a lot of actually people like conservative content creators that are like, we need the NDP to rise up from the ashes. They need to come up because then.
No, and I actually mean that to some extent. I mean, I'm in BC. We're all in BC. I mean,
listen, I'm going to tell you something. Guess where I am?
A plurality of voices on the left. I really do believe that. I mean, I don't live on the left anymore, right? We all did at one time, right? When we were kids or, in college
But the thing is that the parties evolve over time. Like the left party, like the Liberal Party used to be center. They're so far left that the NDP doesn't even know what to do with themselves. They're like, what the hell do we do with ourselves? That's why they're non-existent for a reason, because they can't go any further left than the Liberals. The Liberals are just full blown, right?
Yeah, but I encourage people that are on the left, because there's a lot of them, to vote your conscience, right? Like,
actually, there's a lot of people that
those people do exist, right? They probably don't watch this podcast. I'm probably just screaming at the wall here.
But some people hate watch my podcast and tell me all about how I need to vote my conscience.
I've done.
I see the comments.
I've done some space on X, and there were some NDP people that came in and they said, for the first time in my life, I'm voting conservative. And then I asked, I said, why would you do that? And they're like, well, because the conservatives used to be right and conservative, but now they don't. Now they're actually they morphed into the NDP. They're the working people, the common person, and they're resonating with that voter base. Like
much like police associations, most of the trade unions who previously would have pledged their allegiance to the NDP have supported Poilievre.
Yeah, they're saying, hey, this is the party for the people, and they respect our tax dollars, and they want to, cut taxes, make life more affordable. Like their NDP voters are actually, looking at the Conservative Party going, you know what, this is why I voted NDP all these years, is because of these policies that the Conservatives are coming out. And so it's interesting, like a lot of people are like, I'll never vote Conservative because I've never voted Conservative my entire life. But people forget, like, or they're like, oh, like it was Harper that introduced the carbon tax. What people don't understand is parties evolve, people evolve. Like people, like, okay, that happened in the past, but what are they doing now? What's their vision? Like parties evolve over time. So you have to really look at the party. What are they doing? What's different? Like they evolve. You just like in life, like you get older.
Oh, absolutely.
When you're a kid, you love video games. You get older, and you're like, why did I ever play video games? It's ridiculous, right? I mean, that's how it is, right? You evolve over time, and it's nice to see that there's people that have traditionally voted NDP are waking up, and they're fully awake. These people too. They're like, well, how can I help? I want to spread the word, and so it's great to see that happening in Canada.
I mean, look at the Republicans in the U.S. They went from George Bush to John McCain to Mitt Romney to Donald Trump in like what, a decade. Things change, times change, and things evolve. Totally valid point there, Mark. Absolutely. Studio 778 with a $6.99 super chat says Carney's ego and the elbows up team. We've all heard that. Crowd will provoke tariff destruction. Canada can't win. If Liberals win, collapse is inevitable. I agree. I feel that that's an accurate statement. What do you guys think?
Of course. Yeah, totally agree.
It's just, I mean, look at the last 10 years. The 87% of the people that are with the Liberals, it's the same team. So the only thing that's different is Mark Carney, but it's not different. He's been advising the government for 5 years. And guess what? We still don't know his financial interests. He's like, yeah, it's in a blind trust, but he knows everything he put in that blind trust.
Yeah.
So he knows everything that's in there. So he could sway policy in order to benefit what's in his blind trust. But we'll never know. We'll never find out. He's the only politician we'll never know about. And we're actually considering voting for him. It's insane.
Could I interest you in a heat pump, Mark? Perhaps a modular house?
Yeah. You know what? Like when I saw Justin Trudeau like present these prefab homes and stuff, I'm like, how many shares does this guy have in this company? And now we find out Mark Carney's totally into it too. So there's something going on there.
Modular homes are great, actually. He's talking about.
Oh, they're good.
Yeah.
I'm not talking about that. I said how many shares? How many shares? I didn't say anything about that. So how many shares do they get?
Modular housing people.
Yeah, well, no. If you have a more efficient way of making things, that's great. But we're talking about crony capitalism.
Oh yeah. In all seriousness, like, have you seen these tiny homes in Kelowna? They also have them in Nova Scotia. They've been a complete disaster. Nobody wants to live in them. Even the drug addicts are like, I'd rather live in a tent, right? Because the government built housing has never aged.
I have a question for you guys.
Rush is doing just fine. Yeah, no, it's terrible. It's absolutely terrible.
Just a quick question. Do you guys think we'll ever see the Green Slush Fund documents? I just every day I just want to see those documents.
I'm actually, and this is where my pessimism comes in, and it bothers me all the time because I want to scream. I want to scream at the Conservatives and say, run on this, make this part of your thing. And when you get elected, we want to see it. But I have a feeling that they're going to get elected and then they're going to move on to the things that they want to do. And they're going to leave that one behind because that's a talking point that goes after a political opponent. Once the opponents aren't a thing anymore, maybe they'll bring it back.
It's almost
up.
$1 billion. It's I think dispersed is like half $1 billion. Where's that money?
Oh, guys, I'm sorry, I have to step away for just a few seconds. So bear with me.
Yeah, no worries.
Yeah. Hopefully he's not stepping out because I didn't ask him enough questions. He started, he was like, why are you asking Clyde? Why do you talk to me?
Well, no, that's good. Let's get back to some of these questions here. Where was I? I kind of lost my spot. We got the elbows up one. Here's Michael Hostetler with a $2 super chat, says, "Go back to feudalism. Texas is with Canada." I just got back from Texas. It was fantastic down there. I mean, the people are just amazing, so friendly, beautiful country. It's and I loved it.
How much weight did he gain, Clyde?
Oh man, I think I put like 10 pounds on maybe.
Every time I go to the US, I'm just like, okay, I'm gonna weigh myself before I leave so that I find out how much I weigh when I get back. It's just like the food. I'm like, man, I ordered a small Coke. Like a small Coke is the same size as a large Coke in Canada. I'm like, geez, yeah. I'm drowning in this Coke.
Oh yeah, and well, it's not just that. Like the barbecue. Like if you're in Texas, get barbecue. I mean, you go for barbecue, and it's just.
Well, I was watching your live. Dude. You told me all about the barbecue. I'm like, man, I was getting hungry listening to your live. I was like, man, I'm starving now.
Well, I'm back on the treadmill, and I'm back on my just water. So you stick with that for a while. And when I do move down there, I mean, it won't be a trip, so it won't be like. You know, when you're on vacation, you're like, oh, give me food. I want to try that. I want to have that. When you're just living your life, you're like, okay, moderation. Let's keep this on the
deal. I mean, well, no, I mean, yes and no. I mean, you're going to have like, you know, those like, but you can make it once a week. That's what usually I do. I cheat here too. You know, once a week I eat something that, you know, I'm really, really healthy when it comes to what I'm ingesting, eating. It's all, I grow a lot of my food it's actually starting. I'm excited. I can start planting stuff. So I grow a lot of my food and try to, you know, I take tons of vitamins. So.
Awesome. Yeah. That's what it's about. It's about moderation. Absolutely. Winiska for 20 says, I believe the word purpose is spelled wrong in the jail letter. Propose, not certain. Maybe check it. Or propose. Propose is spelled.
I've seen, you know what? Like I've seen spelling errors in government documents all the time. I've seen spelling errors in like professionally published reports. And I'm like, really? Like, I'm surprised that, you know, with our technology and just running it through a quick AI check, I'm surprised there's spelling errors altogether in general.
Yeah. Actually, you know, just you run something through a Microsoft Word document, it tells you where you messed up. So I don't know how that even happens. Alex is back. Welcome back to the show, Alex.
Thank you.
Hey, Alex, I'm in the middle now, so maybe nobody's going to talk to me now.
So I just wanted to make a comment about Texas because Clyde and I were talking about this off air.
Hey, you were listening to us?
I was. So I hope you don't mind me sharing this. I think that one of the other things that's gone wrong with this election a little bit is this whole Canada versus the US thing. Because Clyde went to Texas. Texas is a Republican state. It has right-wing politics, and states' rights are very important, much like provincial rights. So he went to the American equivalent to Alberta. If Clyde had gone to Portland, I imagine his impressions when he got home would be much different. I can't think of a city that's anywhere close to the hellscape in Canada that Portland is. I've been there. It is atrocious.
Oh, so I've been there too.
This is really liberal versus conservative ideas, and we need to continue to remind voters of that. This is not Canada versus the US. It's not that Texas is better than Canada. It's that liberal politics suck, and that's really it. And I'll just leave it there.
And let's be honest. So I spent a lot of time in Austin, and everybody says like, even in Texas, they're like, Austin, that's super liberal. Go to Austin. Yeah, there's a lot of liberals, but the city, like it's super clean. It's super clean. You talk to people on the DL and like, yeah, I agree with you. I just can't say it at work, you know. Like, and I'm legit. Like I heard that a few times on my trip while I was in Austin. So yeah, it's a thing. I think you're on the nose with that one. It's not an America versus Canada thing. It's a leftoid versus people on the right thing. And when I say leftoid, I don't mean like, because I want to determine, like, make a differentiation there. Like there are people on the left, like RFK, for example. Tulsi Gabbard, and they're completely lucid people. We're talking about people that are so lost, like wokeism crap. That's crazy, and it breeds that kind of stuff. That's what that does. So yeah, I agree with you on that. Let's get on to the next one. Whiskey, Jackass Whiskey and Pinto Beans for 2 says, not all Canada, just Alberta. Obviously, who would become the 51st state. So I think that's what that's referring to. And I think the sentiment goes across the board on that one. Especially right-leaning America does not want left-leaning Canada as a voting demographic. That's just not going to fly.
Yeah, I mean, that's the other thing. Yeah, if all of Canada became the 51st state, the House of Representatives would be Democrat forever.
Yeah, that would not be good for anyone on the right in America, period.
Imagine becoming the 51st state and your first president is Kamala Harris.
Oh,
I don't think the U.S. would accept Quebec. Let's just be honest. Like Quebec, they'd just be like, no. And my family's from Quebec, from Montreal, and I still have family there. I love Quebec, but the U.S. would probably reject Quebec.
Oh yeah, they tell me what language I can speak. Yeah, forget you. Like that's it would not fly. They're like, you can have like people speak Spanish here. Go ahead, but don't tell me I gotta. That's really gonna be, that would be the sentiment. Christine May, member for 4 months. Thank you so much for that, by the way. Says PP was on Brian Lilly. Definitely think he needs to do more. Northern Perspective, Pleb, etc. Again, maybe Pierre might have the what's the term? I don't want to say cojones, or like it's not courageous to come on my show, but I just don't think he would want to in this election environment. I've been speaking so pro-American. I've said a lot of things that I think the Liberals would use as bait against him if you were, guilt by association kind of thing. So I just don't expect him to want to come on my show. But yeah, maybe some of the others. But yeah, I'm a political hot potato. Nobody wants me at the moment. What's that?
I came on.
Your career is over, Alex.
Yeah,
done.
That's right.
You're done.
Before it even started, my political career is down the toilet.
No, hey, I'm gonna say something, Alex. I actually I like your boots on the ground stuff. Like, it's fun. That's the thing when you're making like you're teaching people stuff, and you're like, those things where you could connect with people and clip it, and like, yeah, it was that's why I asked you. I'm like, hey, can I use some of this? It's good.
Oh, I really appreciate it. I believe that a good journalist, and more importantly, a good person, will talk to anyone. But politicians, of course, are not journalists, and they're often not good people either.
All right, I'll leave that one. Kitty Nukes to the 5 says, another interesting conversation. I had a coworker sing praise of Carney, how lucky we are to have him in power. Just about lost my lunch. I would almost.
Yeah, there's some. I just want to tell people, like, the way that I kind of treat it. I'm kind to everybody. I mean, I don't care what people vote or what they're doing. But there's some people that they'll come and attack my channel, or like, they have their strong opinion, and I just see, I said, they're probably misinformed, or you feel bad, and maybe it's an opportunity to educate somebody. So it's nothing bad. You just, I try to be polite and try to inform people.
Yeah, it's the best you can do. I mean, what are you gonna get mad?
No, I've seen people get mad. I'm like, why are you getting mad? There's no point. Like, it's just no. I mean, you're wasting your time.
Exactly. Jackass Whiskey and Pinto Beans for 10 says, Canadians have had a comfy life for so long and are beguiled by a huckster that keeps the gravy train moving. I'm not sure what that means, really. The issue is that world economics have passed Canada by, and there is no going back. I don't think that there's no going back. I just think it's going to be a hard thing to crawl out of.
One
What
of
do
the
you think?
things they're probably looking at. So I mean, for the last 20 years, it's been they've just been doing economic stimulus. So I'm speaking on like
Yeah,
my
you're right.
background is finances. I did that's what I know. And they've just it's just as soon as there's a problem, stimulus. So we're at the end of the stimulus. It's a 40-year debt cycles, and now it's going to be the deleveraging cycle, which is 40 years long. We're going to see a dip in the interest rates here, but then they're going to go back up. And the next time they go back up, they're going to be higher than the 5%. It'll be maybe 7% next time. And that might be 3 or 4 years from now, right? It's debt cycles. That's how it works.
Well, in the 80s, it went up to like 20%. Some people were paying in excess of 20% on their mortgages. That's the real thing.
But the thing is, like, people have to understand is like, we created money from nothing. That's why we had inflation, and that's why our economy is just like debt fueled and debt. And eventually, what has to happen is you need to increase the interest rates in order for people to start saving again. I don't know if you guys remember, but back in the 80s and 90s, people were saving like crazy. They would have tons of money in their bank account. They get return, but as soon as it went to zero interest rates, there was zero incentive to save. Zero. And if nobody's saving, then it's hard to there's no like working capital to like invest back into whatever, right? I mean, that's how you got to have some incentive to save, and then that could be reinvested into an economy to grow, right? So,
well, we used to have the term stagflation, right? When we had a recession economy and low interest rates, artificially low interest rates, because you'd have inflation, you have a stagnant economy, and it's like, it went against what John Maynard Keynes said in his economics treatise, that you just stimulate the economy and everything gets moving, and then that's economic prosperity, right? It doesn't. You can't continually do that, because then you end up with stagflation, as they used to call it. And that's basically like, if savings is low, you have to raise interest rates, or there's no incentive for people to save their money. They'll want to go into commodities, and that's what we've done. Mark Carney brought the interest rates down to zero, and they sat there since he put them there until just recently, and it created a housing bubble. I mean, he wants to claim that he got us out of the issue. He created another issue. It's been awful. It's terrible.
The thing is, it's like with the resume of the central bankers only do two things: they go up, they go down. That's it. That's their job. they either go up with the interest rates, or three. No, they have three jobs. They have three jobs. It's either they do nothing, like they just sit on and they go fishing the whole time, or they're cranking interest rates up because they screwed up, or they're cranking up because they're like, oh, there's too much activity. They don't, and they're always behind the curve. They're always like,
they're just reactionary, right? They can't be proactive because they don't control any of the actual levers of the economy, right? Like they
don't control human behavior, right? I mean, they try to control our human behavior. That's their point. They crank up the interest rates and then do this forward guidance so that they can control what we're going to say and do.
Yeah, you just make our money. Coin flip guesses per year.
But this is what I'm trying to get at.
People smarter than you collected.
And economic genius is what I'm saying.
It's so stupid. Like, central bankers do incredibly little.
I just want to put a clarification there. So central bankers can't do anything about the interest rates. All they can do is try to affect the interest rates by
that's all they do is affect the interest
by
rates.
Printing money. It's either they print money or they buy back money in the market, and then that's how they're trying to manipulate it.
Well, I call them market disruptors. They're experts.
Oh, totally. Andrew Jackson was famous for trying to thwart the oncoming of central banks. The president of the United States, way back when, he was famous for thwarting it for so long. And as soon as they got the Federal Reserve, it's like clockwork. Anytime a country is like, hey, we're gonna make a central bank, then they're like, where'd all the money go? Why is there so much of it now? It's like it just happens in that order. It's crazy. I'm a sound money guy.
I'm just pissed that Canada got rid of all our gold. This is ridiculous. We have zero gold. Zero. Not an ounce. And you know what's crazy? Is Mark Carney in 2012 was the one that triggered the absolute full sale of the no gold. And then after that, the sell-off happened. And then in the UK, when he was over there with the central bank, they didn't sell any of their gold. What the hell? So and a lot of the gold was purchased by the UK, Canadian gold at $1,200 an ounce. And the gold price, just under 4,000, I believe.
Oh man.
Think about that. It's crazy.
Unbelievable. Paul Poco for 2 says paying 0% 10-year loan on my heat pump.
They should just make houses out of the heat pumps.
That's it. We just have so many heat pumps. There's so many out there. We've got Michael Hostetler for 2 says Texas rocks, baby. I agree. That's why I'm going to be making it my home at some point here. Gob Gonson for 10. At this point, I think it's populist versus anti-populist rather than left versus right. It's why so many former liberals have moved rightward. They followed the shift of populism from one group to another. Interesting concept. Yeah, it is really so. Anti-populist, I would actually, Marty and I, we had this discussion on one of our live streams. We were talking about it. What's the opposite of populist? Because populist seems to be this bad word in politics these days. But the opposite of populist is elitist. Because either you're going with what the popular will of the people, which is democracy, right? That's what the popular will of the people is. And then the opposite of that is elitist. Like, no, we shouldn't listen to the people. We're in charge. We do our thing. And that's like your Mark Carney's, that's your Joe Biden's, your Kamala Harris's, your World Economic Forum, all of those types. They're just top down. We're going to instruct you how you should live your life versus we want to run the show. What do you guys think?
Hey, Clyde, did you see the sequence last night with Quebec? On the Quebec show, and they invited Pierre Poilievre, and then they also invited Mark Carney.
I did not know.
So it went kind of viral on X, where they did the grand entrance, entering this show, right? And a few things was really interesting. Somebody clipped the 2 entrances of the 2 people, and they're like, which one represents you? Because Pierre Poilievre walked confidently and masculine, and then you got Carney walking in and then one of the things that was really unique was that Pierre Poilievre shook everybody's hand. Like, he shook the host's hand, shook the other, and Mark Carney's like, I'm the elitist. I don't touch anybody. Like, he didn't shake anybody's hand. He didn't he just did a head nod, and it sat there awkwardly. It's like he doesn't care about the common people. He's an elitist, right?
I shook Jagmeet Singh's hand.
Hey, did I tell you? I was trying to tell you, but I guess you didn't.
I was shocked, man. It was a pretty good handshake,
Okay, Alex, I got to tell you something.
Pretty firm, and
he's a fighter, right?
It wasn't dry or
yeah.
Or whatever.
He's fighting for you, man.
I don't know if he feels the same way about my handshake. You might.
Okay, I got to, Alex.
I think I was.
Alex, I got to tell you something, buddy. I got to tell you something. So Jagmeet Singh's been a thorn in my side for a long time. I'm sure most Canadians feel the same way. Where every day I wake up and I'm like, hopefully I don't see Jagmeet Singh rip up the supply and confidence and agreement today and then tape it back the next day, 24 hours. He did that so many times that I said, if you rip this thing one more time and tape it back up, I'm going to have a mental breakdown. He did it so many times. And listen to this. Every day I go to bed and going, I just wish he could call an election so that we could just get rid of him, just call the election, but he waited for his pension, decimated. He actually could have been the opposition leader at one point. Actually, if he called the election back in December, he could have been the opposition leader. Can you believe that? And now I just saw the recent, we don't believe one of the polls showed him as 0 seats, like literally 0 seats. 0. No
When he
seats.
extended, Mark, I have to tell you, when he extended that hand, it was like the whole world went into slow motion. And I thought, oh my God, this is going to be the worst handshake I've ever had.
Listen,
When it was over, I was like, that wasn't so bad.
You know what? I'm going to tell you something.
But then they kicked you out. They kicked you out forever.
I didn't feel like a lizard at all.
You got to tell the story, Alex. Like they kicked you out forever right after that.
They proactively unsubscribed me from all future events. Yeah.
Listen to this, Alex.
They had somebody on their team that was like capable of doing that.
Yeah, that's very true. I mean, they're not screening for they're not screening for the quality of people that he's hanging around.
It was so I was the only one giving them coverage.
That was, you know what? They showed the analytics on the internet. The only's fan situation was the only bump in his campaign.
Apparently,
that was the only bump in his campaign. Like,
that's too funny.
Okay, so I just want to say one thing about Jagmeet Singh is, listen to this. They added a riding in Burnaby, and so traditionally, my riding changed, and now I'm Burnaby Central, and I literally have the honor to vote Jagmeet Singh out. I'm so happy right now. I'm literally going to get the honor to make sure that there's no vote. And listen, I'm sorry. I know some people say, oh, NDP needs to rise up. Oh, hell no. NDP is not rising up in my riding. Jagmeet Singh is finished. And listen to this. There's only one Jagmeet Singh sign that I've seen in my entire city. I've looked everywhere. And it's hidden behind a tree on Lougheed Highway. And listen to this. Jagmeet Singh is touring around Canada with these pathetic rallies. He hasn't door knocked at all. He doesn't have a team door knocking. Nobody's door knocking. I didn't receive a door knock. When I actually, the other day on the weekend, I went and I toured around Burnaby to see like how many signs, like how many conservative, how many liberal, and there's essentially no NDP. Liberal, I saw one liberal sign, and it's just hundreds of conservative signs. And actually, listen to this, I get back home, and 5 minutes after I get back home, listen, Alex, you need to get the boxing one. I'm fighting for you. That's his classic.
So the conservative were doing, Alex. That's hilarious.
Yeah, they kicked me off the campaign trail. It didn't stop me from jacking a few of their signs.
Well, he's never going to be
as far as I understand it, I contacted legal counsel, and there is nothing illegal about campaigning satirically. And as long as I put it somewhere before the end of the election, I'm good. So
you should use that as a
vandalizing it. I'm not drawing dicks on it or anything. I'm not like being a jerk.
You should go. Listen, you should come to my riding. Take that sign, come to my riding, and ask how many people are you voting for Jagmeet Singh.
Well, I was just in the Okanagan, and my plan was I was going to put the big one because I have a giant one. It's like 9 feet. It's just absolutely massive. And I was going to put it in the yard of that Falkland Super Lab.
Oh, that's way too funny. All right, let's move on. Sean with 699 says the way Trump has treated Canada is not unlike how Ottawa has treated the West for decades. It was enough 50 years ago. So yeah, more of the sentiment of Alberta either needs a better deal with Ottawa or Alberta is looking to check out. It's a real possibility.
Yeah. But the thing is not only is it like the equalization payment, but they're also hurting the, like with the Bill C-69 and like pipeline and the waters in the coast, like anti-tanker, like it's just so anti-energy. And let's be real here. Canada is, we have our our whole system, like everything that we have that a lot of people take for granted is because of our energy industry, like our hospital, everything is because our country is a wealthy country because of our natural resources. Yet, I don't know, this liberal government wants to go to net zero. We could get to net zero, but it's to go after Alberta is ridiculous.
Totally agree. Whiskey, Jackass Whiskey and Pinto Beans for another 5 says, I grew up in the late 70s, early 80s. The federal prime rate, yes, the prime rate hovered at 19% for about 4 years. People forget. It was, people talk about how hard it was.
Not me, Jackass Whiskey and Pinto Beans. I worked as a retail financial advisor in a retirement community for 10 years. I heard about it every day. Every day. Part of 10 years. So
fair enough. People are reminded of this stuff. Studio 778 for $6.99 says, my buddy's girlfriend told him, if you vote conservative, I'll leave you. That's how deep TDS runs relationship held hostage over a ballot. That's crazy.
Not right. Yeah,
I disagree. I think you're conflating TDS with the Canadian election. I think those two things are separate. And if your girlfriend's going to leave you over who you vote for, I mean, she's not worth having anyway. There's plenty of fish.
No, but you know what? I saw a content creator. It was pretty interesting. They said one of the things you need to do before you get serious in a relationship is there's like a survey to see where you fall in the political spectrum and see if you're aligned. And if you're not, then you should probably end it right away, right?
Oh man, that's brutal. That is brutal for sure. One last super chat from Chon saying Singh is the OG bad orange man. Totally agree with that one.
Yeah.
He is a bad orange man. Well, it just fits. It just fits. He's always wearing the orange turban. He's got the orange party.
He's got the pink turban a lot.
Oh yeah, he's got the pink one. I guess that's in solidarity for
I don't know.
The
one thing I just don't understand his bike. That bike he goes around with, that big basket. It just looks ridiculous.
Yeah, I mean, like, who's that pandering to? Like, who's he winning over?
He rides his bike to his Maserati. Like, it's just insane.
He's got the same posture as like the Wicked Witch of the West on the bicycle at the beginning of Wizard of Oz.
Like whenever I think of like Jagmeet Singh fighting for you, it's when he did he almost fought that guy that heckled him.
That's right. That's right. The corrupt
that was so funny.
Yeah, he's like, it's my face. Say it to my face.
And then I saw like a content creator's like, I'll take money.
But he was pretty jacked. Like, I wouldn't have challenged him to a fight. Like, I feel like he could probably beat me up.
I don't know if I would have owned up to it. Like, if I was the one who said that and he came up and he says like, you said this. I mean, yeah, I said that. Like, I said
because what's Jagmeet Singh gonna do?
What are you gonna hit me? Like, you gonna
maybe
throw a
want
punch
to go
at
to
me?
the gym and like start working out, like in case thing challenges me. I gotta.
It was so funny because when he did that, the news was fawning over him. Like, look how great he handled that. It's like, I don't see, like, and what was
I didn't see it that way.
So he was playing it off like they were playing it off like, look at him, he could handle himself because he's a martial artist. Like, every martial artist that I know, they pride themselves in not blowing off the handle at somebody saying words to them. You know what I mean? That's like the whole discipline of being trained in fighting is having confidence and not losing it over like words that are shouted from yonder.
Clyde, I think at that exact same time, there's a lot of things happening in the House of Commons, like on Jagmeet, and it was severe, like with his ripping up the supply and confidence, and like he was just like, I bet you his inbox and like people went crazy on him, and then he just snapped. It was
crazy because like all the things he was doing, I don't know, like you might want to call him a corrupt bastard. I just throwing that out there. but hey,
he didn't come to my house. He didn't come to my house and door knock. Otherwise, I could have had that on video for you guys.
Oh, that's too funny. All right, guys, this has been a blast. I want to thank everyone who came out tonight to hang with us, and of course, big thanks to Mark Nixon and Alex Zoltan. You guys are killing it. both respectively in the news on X, writing reports, going out to do reports, your endless reports on Twitter, TikTok, Instagram, YouTube. Did I miss anything, guys? Like, you guys are on it.
Yeah, follow Alex. He's like, I enjoy your content, Alex. Clyde, I mean, what can I say? I mean, I enjoy your stuff too. So let's thanks for having me, Clyde.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Thank you for having me as well.
Links are all in the description down below. Go check out these guys. You'll not regret it if you're not following them already. It's just another avenue in your morning when you're checking your notifications and seeing what's up in Canada. Again, you won't never be disappointed. Lots and lots of material out there for everybody to view. So thanks, guys. So again, and thank you all for tuning in. We'll see you guys all in the morning tomorrow. Everybody, keep on trucking. And you guys stick around. All right.